If you're a Vikings fan, you might want to look away. Because what happened last night in Atlanta was the kind of game that makes you question your life choices, your team loyalty, and maybe even your fantasy football strategy. It was one of those nights where hope turned to heartbreak in a matter of minutes, and the energy in the stadium shifted from electric anticipation to stunned silence. The kind of game that leaves you staring at your TV, remote in hand, wondering if you should just turn it off and go to bed early. But if you stuck around, you witnessed a game that will be talked about for all the wrong reasons. The Vikings came into this matchup with high expectations, riding the wave of a promising start to the season and the buzz surrounding their rookie quarterback. But last night's game got ugly in a hurry. From the opening drive, it was clear that the Falcons came to play, and the Vikings just couldn't keep up. The scoreboard told the story, a lopsided affair that had Minnesota fans shaking their heads and Atlanta fans celebrating every big play. After a strong debut, Vikings rookie J.J. McCarthy was supposed to keep the hype train rolling in Atlanta. Fans and analysts alike were eager to see if he could build on his impressive first outing, and there was a sense of optimism in the air. McCarthy had shown flashes of brilliance, poise under pressure, and the kind of arm talent that gets a fan base dreaming about the future. But football is a game of highs and lows, and last night, McCarthy experienced the kind of low that every rookie dreads. Instead, the wheels kind of fell off. The confidence that McCarthy displayed in his debut seemed to evaporate as the Falcons' defense swarmed him from every angle. The coaching staff looked on with concern, trying to find answers as the game slipped further and further out of reach. Every missed opportunity seemed to weigh heavier on the young quarterback's shoulders, and the frustration was written all over his face. 3 picks, missed passes, and a handful of throws that left everyone scratching their heads. McCarthy struggled to find his rhythm, and the Falcons' defense took full advantage. Each interception felt like a gut punch, not just to McCarthy, but to the entire Vikings sideline. The missed connections with his receivers only added to the mounting pressure, and it became clear that this was not going to be the rookie's night, and a Falcons defense that just wouldn't quit. They played with relentless energy, flying to the ball on every snap and making life miserable for the Vikings offense. The defensive line collapsed the pocket, the linebackers clogged the passing lanes, and the secondary pounced on every mistake. It was a masterclass in defensive football, and the Vikings simply had no answers. You could almost hear Vikings fans groaning from Minnesota all the way down to Georgia. The collective sighs, the groans, the face palms. It was a symphony of disappointment that echoed through living rooms and sports bars across the country. Social media lit up with hot takes, memes, and plenty of "here we go again" jokes from long-suffering fans. McCarthy finished with a tough stat line. Just insert completion percent completions, insert yards, and those 3 interceptions. It was the kind of performance that will haunt him in the film room and fuel endless debate among fans and analysts. The numbers don't tell the whole story, but they paint a pretty bleak picture of a night where nothing seemed to go right for the Vikings' young signal caller. The Falcons' D had him running for his life, and his highlight reel? Well, let's just say it was more about survival than success. McCarthy was under constant duress, forced to scramble out of the pocket and make throws on the run. The offensive line struggled to protect him, and the relentless pressure led to hurried decisions and costly mistakes. Let's just say it was more uh-oh than oh wow. Instead of jaw-dropping throws and game-changing plays, we saw a young quarterback learning some hard lessons on the road. Every misstep was magnified, and the frustration was palpable, not just for McCarthy, but for the entire Vikings offense. Meanwhile, the Falcons took full control. They capitalized on every mistake, turning turnovers into points and building a lead that felt insurmountable by halftime. The Atlanta crowd was loving every minute, and the energy in the stadium only grew as the game wore on. Calvin Ridley made the Vikings' secondary look like traffic cones, slicing through the defense with crisp routes and sure hands. Every time the ball came his way, it seemed like he was one step ahead of the coverage, turning short gains into big plays and keeping the chains moving for Atlanta. And Drake London was basically catching everything in sight. Whether it was a contested catch in traffic or a perfectly timed route along the sideline, London was a nightmare matchup for the Vikings' defensive backs. His chemistry with the Falcons quarterback was on full display, and he made the most of every opportunity. By the third quarter, you could feel the momentum swing. Big time. The Falcons were playing with confidence, feeding off the crowd and each other, while the Vikings looked shell-shocked and desperate for answers. Every big play by Atlanta seemed to sap a little more energy from the Minnesota sideline, and the outcome started to feel inevitable. But the real turning point? It wasn't just the steady drumbeat of Atlanta's offense or the suffocating defense. It was a single play that changed everything, a moment that will be replayed over and over in Vikings highlight reels for all the wrong reasons. McCarthy's fumble on third down. With the Vikings desperately trying to mount a comeback, McCarthy dropped back to pass, only to be blindsided by a Falcons defender. The ball popped loose, and in an instant, Atlanta pounced on it, setting themselves up with prime field position. Gift-wrapped field position for Atlanta, and the Falcons wasted no time taking advantage. The turnover was the final nail in the coffin, and you could see the frustration and disappointment on the faces of the Vikings players as they trudged off the field. And from there, it was game over. The Falcons punched it in for another score, stretching their lead and putting the game out of reach. Social media? Absolutely ruthless. The internet wasted no time piling on, with fans and critics alike, dissecting every mistake and turning the Vikings' misery into viral content. Memes, tweets, TikToks, every platform was flooded with reactions. Some fans tried to find humor in the pain, while others vented their frustration in long threads and hot takes. The memes came fast and furious, capturing the agony of defeat and the absurdity of the night's events. You name it, Vikings fans were roasting and commiserating at the same time. There were calls for patience, demands for change, and plenty of gallows humor as fans tried to process another tough loss. The online community became a virtual support group, with everyone sharing in the collective disappointment. So, can McCarthy bounce back, or is this the start of a rough patch for the Vikings? That's the question on everyone's mind. The NFL season is a marathon, not a sprint, and every young quarterback faces adversity at some point. The real test will be how McCarthy and the Vikings respond to this setback. Will they regroup, learn from their mistakes, and come back stronger? Or will this loss linger, casting a shadow over the rest of their season? Hit subscribe for more NFL drama, and let's see if next week brings redemption or more memes. Because in the world of football, every week is a new story, and you never know when the next big moment or meltdown is just around the corner. Stay tuned, because the Vikings' journey is far from over, and there's plenty more drama to come.